So today, we're going to break down a massive bet, a billion-dollar move, really. It's this fascinating story of how one of the biggest Islamic banks in the world took old-school financial rules and smashed them together with modern green investing. The big question is, how'd they pull it off? How did they turn all this global pressure into, well, a strategic masterstroke? Let's dive in. All right, first up, just look at this number, $109 billion. Now, what do you think that is? It's not some country's budget. It's not a bailout package. No, this number tells you everything you need to know about the sheer scale of the company we're talking about today. That number? That's the market cap for Rajhi Bank. And yeah, they're the world's largest Islamic bank. So we're not talking about some small regional player here. This is a global financial titan. I mean, they're operating on a level that, honestly, very few banks can even touch. Okay, and this slide, wow. It really tells a story of pure dominance, doesn't it? I mean, just look at these stats. We're talking about a bank with over $250 billion in assets. That's huge. Then you've got a staggering $6.6 billion in net income, which is up 26% from the year before. They control almost 15% of the entire corporate market in Saudi Arabia. And maybe the craziest number here, a net promoter score of 82. That's a measure of customer loyalty. And a score that high is something most banks can only dream of. So yeah, this isn't just a market leader, this is a behemoth. But here's the thing, and this is really the crucial context for our whole story. This traditional giant isn't just sitting still. It's right in the middle of Saudi Arabia, a country that's going through one of the most ambitious, most rapid economic transformations on the planet right now. You've probably heard of it, Vision 2030. Now, if you're a market leader, change that fast is, well, it's a double-edged sword. It's a massive opportunity, for sure, but it's also a pretty significant threat. So the big question is, what do you do? How does a titan like this respond to that kind of whirlwind change? And that, right there, brings us to the absolute core of our story today, the $1.16 billion decision. This wasn't just some random move, this was the strategic pivot they made to lock in their future. And let's be clear, this was no accident. I mean, the source material we're looking at literally calls it a strategic masterstroke. This was a very deliberate, very calculated play to grab the future by the horns. So, what did they actually do? Well, they secured this, a $1.165 billion financing deal. Now, I know the formal name there, Sustainable Commodity Murabaha, sounds super complex, but don't worry about that for a second. The idea behind it is incredibly powerful. Think of it as a massive injection of cash, but, and this is the important part, it came with very specific strings attached. And trust me, those strings are the key to understanding this entire strategy. Okay, so that's the what, right? $1 billion sustainable financing deal. Simple enough. But the real lesson here, the part that's so fascinating, is the why. Why did they do this? So let's really break down the anatomy of this strategy. Honestly, this is the kind of stuff that business strategists live for. So their whole thinking really came down to three main pillars. Super clear. Pillar number one, diversify where their money comes from, get capital from outside their home market. Number two, become a leader in ESG. Environmental, social, and governance. That's kind of the new gold standard for how responsible a company is. And pillar number three, use those first two ideas to basically future-proof the whole bank. Simple, but brilliant. So what did that actually look like in practice? Well, diversifying capital meant they went out and got money from 13 different international lenders. That way, they weren't so dependent on just their local market. Leading on ESG, that sent this huge signal to the world that, hey, faith-based Sharia finance and modern sustainability, they can actually work together, hand in hand. And future-proofing, that meant lining up their goals perfectly with big national projects like the Saudi Green Initiative and pouring money into high-growth areas like renewables. Okay, let's circle back to that financial tool with the complicated name, the Sustainable Murabaha. How did this thing actually work? Let's unpack it. At its heart, this whole thing was designed to answer a really fundamental question that the entire Islamic finance world was grappling with. The question was this: how can you jump on board with this global ESG investing trend while still staying true to your core Sharia principles which most famously say you can't charge interest? And this slide, well, it just shows how elegant their solution was. See, a Murabaha is a pretty standard tool in Islamic finance. It's basically a cost plus profit sale, which gets around the whole interest thing. The real genius here was just adding one word: sustainable. By doing that, it meant the $1.16 billion was contractually locked in. It could only be used for projects that had documented, proven environmental or social benefits. And all of that had to be checked by outside auditors. It's like the perfect marriage of principle and purpose. So it sounds like a brilliant strategy on paper, right? But the real question is, did it actually work? Did it deliver? Well, let's get into the hard data and really measure the payoff here. Just look at this. Before they made this move, Al-Rajhi had a totally respectable BBB ESG rating. Pretty good. But afterwards, they skyrocketed to AA. I mean, that's a huge jump. That rating put them in the top 5, not in the region, but among the most sustainable banks on the entire planet. If you're trying to attract global investors and top talent, that is a massive, massive win. And this wasn't just about getting a good report card, The money had a real, tangible impact on the ground. You can see it here. It funded over 2,200 megawatts of renewable energy. It helped build more than 6,000 affordable homes. And it wasn't just big projects either. It also fueled a nearly 100% explosion in their lending to small and medium-sized businesses, which, as we all know, are really the engine of any new economy. And here's the really crucial part. This whole sustainable pivot happened right alongside incredible financial performance. So while they were busy funding all these green projects, their digital transactions were soaring, their net income jumped by that 26%, and their total assets blew past that historic $250 billion mark. They basically made a super powerful case that for a modern bank, doing good and making a profit, well, they can be two sides of the same coin. So, okay, the results look absolutely spectacular, right? But now it's your turn. Let's imagine you're in the boardroom. We're going to analyze this decision from every single angle. Okay, so here's the first big question for everyone in the boardroom. This incredible 26% profit growth, was it really because of this brilliant ESG strategy? Or was the bank just riding a massive wave? The powerful economic tailwinds from a country that's completely transforming itself. How much credit do we give to the strategy itself? And what about the future? Is this just a one-off success story, or is this a blueprint that other banks can copy? Think about it. As ESG rules around the world get even tighter, can other Islamic banks actually follow this model? Or is there a point where it starts to compromise their core Sharia principles? It's a tough question. And that brings us right to the final verdict. Based on everything we've just walked through, was this billion-dollar bet the absolute right play? Was this the move that secured Al-Rajhi Bank's dominance for the next decade? Or were there hidden risks we haven't talked about? The floor is yours. What do you think?